Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah, it's Rock and Roll Connection with the weekly comic book roundup. We're going to get started pretty quick here. So we got quite the stack. We'll start things off with Moon Knight number 200, which is sadly the last issue of the current run. Hopefully, we'll be getting a new. Hopefully, in less than the next year, we'll be getting a new run. But anyways, where we left off. Moon Knight had infiltrated and infiltrated the Society des Sadiques and brought down their leader, who was actually none other than his uncle, Ernst. But as I said, Moon Knight had defeated Ernst and ended up face to face with his more recent nemesis, Sun King. So the issue starts off with a flashback of the end of the Sun King arc. Mark is helping people, loading people up onto a boat from Sun King's island, and talking with both Sun King and Truth. Then we fast forward to the asylum where they are committed, and then we see some of their therapy. And then comes the night when Ernst shows up and frees the both of them. And we cut to now where Mark bum rushes Sun King and they begin fighting. And Sun King ends up helping Mark by stopping him to members of the society. Basically saying, you know, there's more to things than just Ernst. Sun King was in fact the backup plan. So anyways, Sun King and Mark go to, of all places, Marlene's house with followers. And Mark gets his head right. Basically pulls his other personalities out, and they all decide, and they basically get back to where they have been. And Beatrice, Mark and Marlene's daughter, hands him a comic book that she wrote for him. And it's set in the future, where she's Moon Girl. And having been trained by Moon Knight, and her and Moon Girl, and then her mother and father go off and go off into space and have adventures, you know, kind of a family with it, kind of like the Fantastic Four. And that also helps Mark get everything back to get his head back together. Anyways, so Moon Knight and Sun King head back to the city where The Society's anti-carrier is still quite the problem. We get a couple of splash pages of Moon Knight, Sun King, and Moon Knight's followers attacking the Society, both outside and inside the anti-carrier. And in fact, at least one of those is really just Sun King and Moon Knight attacking Society, and it's shown. We see some of Moon Knight's followers, as it were, but yeah. Anyway, so they find, as they make their way through, they find Truth. He's all hooked up to some machines and being pumped full of a blue liquid, which we then learn as he touches both Sun King and Moon Knight's heads, we discover the truth, or we discovered the history behind it. In 1935, Ernst was imbued by one of Hitler's mystical artifacts with what's referred to as the blue corruption. The power of the artifact is to infect you with a self-created thought virus or meme. In 1936, Mengele creates an unseen subsect of Jewish people infected by the artifact under Ernst's supervision, using his brain as a conduit. And the Holocaust is not only a plan to kill all Jews, but to instill the Nazi Party's hatred of the Jewish people into their DNA through trauma and abuse. And in 1938, Stalin manages to weaponize the corruption. In 1939, a comic book executive refuses to print comic books with corrupted ink, preserving the medium's integrity. As the war begins to draw to a close, Ernst serves his purpose as the original and only Nazi officer to truly host the corruption. However, his psychological devastation and personal history cause the corruption to manifest into a new form, not unlike some kind of sick venom, as it were. And then Mark interrupts, like, wait a minute. If Ernst can make up, basically what it boils down to, if Ernst can make up the past, Mark can make up the future. And Sun King and Moon Knight manage to turn the tables on the truth. They fight him down. And Marlene shows up after Mark had a very short power nap. They argue a bit, and Raw basically says, hey, look, I'm not going to... What basically boils down to is that yes, Sun King has done some things he regrets and worked with people he shouldn't have trusted. But the truth was his sad, beautiful friend before he allowed himself to have his mind warped by abusers, namely Ernst. And and basically explains that he is no longer foe but friend. Each of Mark's side personalities has their own thoughts on it. Khonshu saying that Sun King is not worthy of Mark's trust. Jake saying that Marlene should mace him, and Well, Steve to understand he's surrounded by psychopaths. And, they say, you know, but the two of them both say first things first. And so Mark takes Sun King to a very good, very secure mental health facility. Has him committed. And then, as Sun King is committed, Mark leaves. That's the end. Basically seems like Sun King will end up being potentially an ally. Perhaps Truth as well. And of course there is Mark and Marlene's daughter. Next up we've got Punisher number 3. So where we left off, Punisher had managed to get everyone on him. Street level heroes such as Daredevil, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage. Street level villains of all flavors. And so on the 7 train from Queens to Manhattan, Daredevil and Punisher end up having something of a team up. Reluctantly. And while Daredevil tries to tell Frank not to use guns, telling the Punisher not to use guns is not exactly something that, you know, works. But they fight their way through what appears to be, at this point, ninjas and then various others. When the train stops at 64th Street, Fisk Avenue, a couple of cops are waiting, and their dead bodies fall into the train, and more thugs get on. The train goes on as Frank kills them, and, well, Daredevil doesn't. And then there's the creature that... Then there's a... Well, that. And while Daredevil tries to subdue it, Frank shoots the shit out of it because, well, Punisher. He uses the subway track to take him down. And then blows him up with a bunch of grenades. However, Daredevil feigns a heart attack, which gives the NYPD just enough time to show up and arrest Punisher. And so he gets brought in, put in holding. Of course, in the background, while the desk sergeant and some of the other officers are discussing things, we see a fight spark up in holding, and, well, when all is said and done, Frank's the only one left standing, and Nick Fury has shown up with a handful of soldiers. They get Fury asks for the requisite paperwork so he can basically take Frank off of the NYPD's hands. One of Fury's soldiers, however, is making a point of looking right at Frank. So Frank asks if there's anything he can do. Of course, the soldier in question turns out to be Bullseye, back from the dead, like everyone. Which does call into question whether or not that's actually Nick Fury or not. 50-50 chance that it's actually the Chameleon. Next up, we've got Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider. Now, this is a Spider-Geddon crossover, Spider-Geddon tie-in. But most of the book does not really connect to Spider-Geddon. Alright, so Spider-Gwen, on Earth 65, Spider-Gwen's out. She's swinging along, and she laments about the fact that she really missed it. Her spider sense goes off, and she saves the young woman from some muggers. One of them runs away, however, still holding his gun, and then the young woman she saved hugs her and thanks her, and explains that Spider-Gwen's her hometown hero. You know, no one's forgotten what she did for New York by clearing out the Hand. And she swings off and runs into Harry Osborn, who buys her dinner. But while they're talking, Gwen sees Spider-Ham across the way, so she suits up and asks Spider-Ham what's going on. And he explains that something's up in Peter Parker's home territory. And its inheritor not good. So the two of them leave for Earth 616, and we fast forward a bit and cover the events of Spider-Geddon 1 and 2. The inheritors are back, and so far they've killed two of the other Spider-Mans, Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Man UK. And Spider-Gwen comes out of a portal, and, well, over a city. So gravity, it's a thing, and yeah, she's got to slow down her descent, so she runs around a bit trying to figure out where she's at. She finds Oscorp, but it's abandoned. So she goes in and take a look around, and we get a goblin-ish villainess go after her. So Spider-Gwen and her fight it, duke it out a bit, and it looks like she's in danger of venoming out again. Then someone tells them to wait, and which distracts Spider-Gwen just enough so that the goblin-ish villainess can escape. But she knows that voice, the voice who's asking her what she's doing there. It's Peter. She explains it, so, you know, she tries to talk to him a bit, and then Peter, of course, asks, how she knows his name, and she says that it's her. It's Gwen Stacy. And that is where the issue, and she needs his help, of course. That's where the issue ends. Alrighty, moving on to Infinity Warp Soldier Supreme #2. Where we left off, Dormammu Red had trapped Soldier Supreme as well as the Winter Soldier in the Dark Dimension near the end of World War II. We pick up, and Soldier Supreme is narrating, explaining that he disappeared at the end of World War II. He's been locked away and lost to time in this Dark Dimension. And apparently he's gotten really good at being a magical warrior. He's lonely, yes. But then he sees a light, so he goes for it. Gets on the back of a centaur and has the centaur go towards the light, and then he jumps through and goes through he jumps for the light. Well, he cuts to the real world now, ish. Cultists are, I think it's supposed to be Stonehenge, though but some cultists are trying to summon something for their master, Mordok. A combination of Baron Mordo and MODOK. Mordok is the mental organism ritually designed for the occult. And the portal opens and Mordok shouts, "Hail Satan," as do his followers, and Super Soldier jumps through. And after a brief battle with Mordok and his followers, Super Soldier wins out and realizes that Mordok is a single creature who is a vessel to two souls when he soul walks. But he manages to take down the cultists, and he retrieves from Mordok. God damn it. Yeah. From Mordok, the Eye of Agamotto. He manages to make it to London and find out how much time he's lost, decades. However, then comes debriefings, endless debriefings. He goes to home to Brooklyn, and he thinks about what some of Mordok said. Mordok suggested turning the Eye of Agamotto on himself, and he sees the truth. He's a vessel for two souls. He then hears a summons. A mental summons from Emma Frost saying that they need more heroes. And the world is an illusion and is slowly dissolving. And so Soldier Supreme goes to join the fight. And Soldier Supreme story will be continued in the next issue of Infinity Wars. Next on the list we got Infinity Warp's Arachnite. I've been waiting for this all month. Like it was supposed to come out at the beginning of the month, and well, yeah. So we start off with the origin of Arachnite. Years ago, the American Museum of Natural History in Manhattan, Ben Parker, May Parker, and their nephew Peter were checking out the last night of the World Science Festival. And Peter suggests, instead of grabbing a cab, why don't they walk through the park? However, Peter is quickly attacked by some kind of goblin, who then attacks both Ben and May, killing both of them. And as Peter lays on the ground dying, a spider comes to him, offers to save him, turn things around, waken a totem. And the spider managed to heal his wounds and fills him with his unspeakable power. And Peter said that in that moment I became we. The next morning, the cops show up to take Uncle Ben and Aunt May away, and Peter has managed to give a sketch of of what attacked them. But it's written off as being crazy because, well, three voices arguing in his head. Obviously, he's crazy. Now we have one of the voices manifesting himself as the Arachnite, 15 years later, chasing down Michael Morpheus, who has just robbed basically a truck onto a blood bank. To duke it out, and of course, Arachnite wins, and Morpheus ends up webbed up to a streetlight. And so Peter gets into the car with his best friend Harry Osborn. They talk a bit. We at Parker Industries, him and this woman he loves, Marley Jane, is there with him as he makes a major business deal. And then there's Science Peter, who has an odd experiment that he's working on. However, he devotes all of his time to it that he can, and turns out he had to be at the airport an hour ago when, well, he's lost track of time and it's over the next morning. Along the way, Harry calls his dad. Things aren't going too well with Harry's dad, though. So Peter says, hey, we can, let's stop by. You can see him, after all, private jet that leaves when I say it leaves. However, things aren't going so well, and then the spider sense goes off, and that creature. The creature that attacked him and his aunt and uncle. It's back. And so Arachnite fights it. However, Harry stops him, revealing that it's none other than Harry's father. But Harry's father reverts back into, well, a frail, somewhat frail old man. Meanwhile, the voices in Peter's head are quite pissed at Harry. And that's where the issue ends. Interesting thought combining Moon Knight and Spider-Man. Not something I would have, not a combination I would have thought of. Next up, we've got Sleepwalker #2, also an Infinity Wars tie-in. So we start off. Turns out that Sleepwalker's been making his way through all of the worlds within each stone. Currently, he's in the Power Stone, which is an arena. Well, the world was in the Power Stone, which is an arena. He's there with Little Monster, who is plowing through people. However, Sleepwalker loses track of him and is then called upon by Dynamis. Who's basically the champion of the arena. Turns out Dynamis wants to fight Little Monster, and so Sleepwalker tells Little Monster's origin. Scott Banner was a brilliant scientist who uses knowledge to pursue a life of crime until his fiancée, Janice Jones, was convicted in his place despite her innocence. The only way he could see to make things right was to break her out of jail. However, the prison she was in, the ant farm, was an ordinary prison. It was the warden, the headman, was experimenting with technology to maximize both the capacity and the profit of his corrupt institution. And so, microscopic prisoners confined in tiny cells and trained to become undetectable assassins. However, before it could be used on Janice, Scott got in the way and became Little Monster. However, after telling Dynamis the story, turns out that he has vanished, meaning he's awake. And so the Thunderbolts come to see him. Melissa Morley, Poltergeist, seemingly a combination of Ghost and Songbird. Janice Jones, the Beetle. I think there's a little bit of Jessica Jones, maybe some Janet Van Dyne as well. I think we're going out with a lot there. And then Bullseye. Combination of Bullseye and Elektra. But turns out that the headman has infected himself with his own designer disease before he created the cure. However, he took a prototype strain he did have a cure for and set it off in a children's hospital. So, Little Monster goes in while in the arena. Sleepwalker fights Dynamis, The little monster goes into Hedman's bloodstream, going after them. And in Hedman's brain fights it's I don't know, a viral version of the Abomination. They actually don't give it a name, give this a name. So, anyways, so little monster goes back to sleep. Turns out that sleepwalkers managed to defeat Dynamis, and they go back into. And they continue to go through. Meanwhile, on a helicarrier, Commander Hand tells an agent of Project Cassandra. It's an ESP early warning project. A bunch of, quote unquote, a bunch of Halloween types who check in whenever they have bad dreams. Turns out 16 of their psychics have all had dreams about Sleepwalker. And so, Colonel Rick Fury, agent of sleep, is put on the case. That's actually kind of a neat combination. Anyway, so we'll see where this leads. Moving on to Return of Wolverine, #2. Chapter 2, Limbo. Out at sea, Logan and Anna are chasing down a boat on a boat of their own. A couple of the one of Persephone's kill teams probably going to test it on a large. Probably want to test a virus on a large population, and so they want to make sure that doesn't happen. But some members of one of the kill teams are sent after Wolverine and Anna. A clone of Omega Red and a clone of Daken. Picking up on two of the plot threads from Hunt for Wolverine. One, the stolen database, DNA database that Mr. Sinister had, and two, the fact that Daken was taken prisoner by Sotera. So they make short work of Omega Red, firing a spear from a spear gun through his head. And then Wolverine and Daken duke it out. And as they do, what Daken's wearing over is little by little cutaways, and Logan sees the tattoo on his arm, as Daken had a big tribal tattoo on his arm onto his chest. Realizing that maybe this is someone he knows. But also, as he goes on, his claws heat up. And he uses them to ignite Daken and toss him overboard. And he asks Anna if she's ever heard any stories of his claws getting hot. But they continue to make their way towards after the bad guys, and Anna kisses him as he's offering thanks, but he just his head, hold on. He does say that he's not sure if everyone ever does thank him, but he knows that's not why he does it. And then they are coming up on Persephone's city. Meanwhile, at the Xavier Institute for Mutant Education and Outreach, Jean Grey is fairly certain that she just found Logan. Next issue, we're going to see the X-Men catch up to Logan. Next up, we've got X-Men Red, number 9. Where we left off, Cassandra Nova had taken control of Rachel Grey and sent her after to basically use her as a weapon against Jean Grey. And so Jean kind of is trying to keep her plans all through her, basically put all this on her, and everyone is giving her reasons why, hey, we can help. Or, in the case of Kurt, more case of because of his feelings for her, maybe maybe it's best. And of course, we also find out that Kurt never told Jean that he was seeing, or he had briefly had a relationship with Rachel. Though, as Jean puts it, he was practically screaming it at her every time she was in his head. So then Honey Badger kind of gets a brief lowdown on the Phoenix, the experiences that Jean's had with the Phoenix, and then Ken says, she was once turned into a telepathic alien queen who could communicate with other aliens across the universe. And the same day, she blew up an entire moon full of her alien hive. So it might not be exactly what Jean went through, but there are degrees of experience. And eventually Jean sends Storm out to catch Rachel when the time comes. And then Jean shows up on Genosha, and the two duke it out. Meanwhile, X-23 and Honey Badger are doing their part. And Gentle and Trinary attempt flirting until though it yeah, no. And then Honey Badger asks Laura X-23 to use her stick power to slice through the awkward, and so X-23 says, Trinary, you can talk to machines, but apparently you're not very good at listening to people. Nudge note, you fought a Hulk. You should have the courage to ask a girl out. Anyways, the battle between Jean and Rachel continues. And Jean realizes that Rachel is holding back. She is trying to fight Cassandra Nova's control. And so when Cassandra Nova realizes this, she tries to kill her. And so Jean offers to surrender herself to Cassandra Nova in exchange for releasing Rachel. And so Rachel leaves, but not before giving Cassandra Nova a good hearty punch in the mouth. And while Jean suggests her and Cassandra talk, Cassandra has other plans and seemingly destroys Jean. Of course, it turns out it was a ruse, and Jean isn't even on Genosha. And she tells Cassandra Nova that her X-Men team is coming for Cassandra. But turns out that looks like war is coming to Atlantis. Again. Because it's totally not happening in Avengers as well. Alrighty. And finally we've got X-Men Black Juggernaut. This is the fourth of the X-Men Black one-shots. And we start off at the Xavier School. And Juggernaut attacks, fighting the old school X-Men. But he realizes something's up. The X-Men are all wearing their old costumes, and he's pretty sure some of them are supposed to be dead. So someone must be messing up with his head. Not Charles, though. And a kid shows up. It's like Charles isn't doing this to Kane, but Kane is in trouble. Continues to make his way through, and then it turns out he's in the Temple of Satorak in Thailand. He talks with the kid explaining that he's the child version of Kane. So we continue to get battle between Kane and various X-Men. Excuse me. And then Satorak himself shows up. Kills his followers. They're there. Tells Kane to kneel before him. However, of course, Kane goes after him. They duke it out. Of course, Satorak is a bit more powerful than Juggernaut. And Satorak explains that Kane's rage is delicious but misguided. He's failed him at the Temple of Satorak. In fact, the least worthy Thor defeated him. Satorak needed to know if he was still capable of walking the earth as the Avatar of Satorak. Turns out, though, that he's been holding back. They keep fighting. Juggernaut keeps on getting back up, even after the helmet's gone. Even the child version of him fights back. It turns out it was all, none of it was real. It was a test. We also discovered that if you have a total of 8 gems, the 8 gems of Satorak, one can actually defeat Satorak. And so now, Juggernaut leaves the temple with his younger self in tow, saying, "Let's spread fear and rage, and perhaps one day we shall find the other 7 gems that make Septaric bend to our will." Anyways, Chapter 5 of, or Chapter 4 of X-Men Black, Apocalypse. Apocalypse has been captured. His captors realize that because with the markings on his face, he must be sapient, somewhat sapient. Apocalypse keeps on telling himself to survive. And then they use one of the other creatures as a test subject that doesn't on the machine that doesn't work. But he manages to trick them, and he gets out. But he's still defeated. However, he combines himself with one of the creatures. And now, the last of his power, he has transferred his DNA, his genetic map, into a new body. And now, well, now it's time to raise their civilization. The conclusion of this story, that being in X-Men Black and the Frost next week. That is it for this week's comic book haul. Tomorrow I'm gonna try and get the video up for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Not sure if there's going to be a video for the remake of Suspiria this week or not. Mainly because it turns out it's only opening in select cities this weekend, and where I live is probably not a select city. Anyway, as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put up new content. Links to you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Facebook and Twitter. Also, if you feel so inclined, you can donate to my Patreon. Links to all three are in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.